Hi everybody. This is Chris Pagliuco, and this is a sort of an adult slash collegey type lecture to support you in our study of Unit 1, Westward Expansion. And while it is for grade 5, this is a pretty complicated history in the United States, so I thought I'd give you some content knowledge. You could return to this video as many times as you need to sort of get a command of the material, and then if you had questions, you're welcome to ask me or look it up. None of it is particularly complicated, but I'd be happy to help, of course. Westward expansion is a really fascinating topic that is very, very broad and surprisingly complex. The period that we're going to be taking a look at in 5th grade is from 18 to 1900, and that's not really the entire story of westward expansion, but that's fine. It's certainly more than enough. The story of westward expansion is going to begin really with the 13 colonies, which become states at the end of the American Revolution in 1783. Which is really the start of the country, of course. And if we come over here and we take a look at this map, and maps are likely to be a pretty significant part of our course, we can see like the colonies of North America at the Declaration of Independence. That would be 1776, not quite 1783, but this still works well because the colonies were still really clinging to this eastern seaboard. And it was these Appalachian Mountains right here that kept everybody close to the coast. And a lot of the old titles from the king, like for Connecticut, for instance, the charter had just set the lines of latitude, top and bottom, and then said it went from the Atlantic all the way to the Pacific Ocean, which is really humorous. But if we went out to Ohio today, right along like northern Ohio right here, we would find a ton of towns named after towns in Connecticut. So, and this was called the Western Preserve, I think, of Connecticut. And that land Connecticut claimed, and you can't remember how it was sort of negotiated out with the U.S. government. But in any case, a lot of Connecticut's sons were out in Ohio. And it is sort of ironic that today people are like, oh, everybody's moving out of Connecticut. Which is true and probably concerning, but people have been saying that since about the year 1700. Connecticut people have been filling this entire nation for probably 3 centuries now, going on to our 4th. A second reason, other than the Appalachian Mountains, which kept people moving west, was that all of our trade was really Atlantic-based, at least for the English colonies on the English seaboard. And that was primarily because you had England over here, the mother country, who controlled a huge portion of the American economy even after the Revolution. And another reason was all the sugar islands down in the Caribbean. New England and really all the colonies were part of this triangular trade between Europe, the American colonies, and the sugar islands. And then there was a second triangle between the American colonies, or American states eventually, Africa with the slave trade, and Europe. So during and prior to the Revolution, and a little bit after, a lot of the United States was looking eastward towards Europe. But more and more over time, that sort of phrase, go west, young man, is going to be more and more relevant. And of course, as this map indicates, the United States had gained territory all the way up to the Mississippi River as a result of the American Revolution, which was really an amazingly fortunate result of the Revolution. The American colonies could have done far worse, and it was sort of a miracle that England was even willing to part with this much territory over here in the West. This area here was called the Northwest Territory, and was among the first area to be considered for statehood, particularly this Ohio area right here. You can see that these other states are continuing really far. So, let's get back to our list.